Welcome everyone, today's video is going to involve me ranking each arm fit skill in Ring Fit Adventure, looking at them critically in my opinion as a fitness professional and seeing which one is best for you. Ring Fit Adventure of course is the best-selling new RPG of the Switch generation and includes 43 different fit skills to use and exercise with, and they are split into 4 main groups: arms, legs, yoga and core. So first up is the arm skills, of which there are 8 in total, the lowest amount for a category in the game. If you've seen my videos from a year ago, the 5 best fit skills and 5 worst fit skills, a couple of these aren't really going to shock you, but I have looked further and have altered my opinion on one particular one, so stick around to find out which one and why. And please remember to hit like and subscribe to the channel, it really does help me out. Now before we start, I am trying to be as objective as possible, not taking into account my own likes and dislikes. What I'm using to judge the moves is how it works your body, the muscles used, what function the move holds for your workout, amount of prior skill or conditioning needed to perform, and how the form is implemented in the game through instruction. I'd also like to point out that none of these moves are actively bad for you when performed correctly, and if you want to use them, that's awesome. There just may be ones that work those muscles in a more effective way. So this is, in my opinion as a fitness professional, a good ranking of all of the arm skills in Ring Fit. So let's get stuck in, and remember, this listing saves the best for last. At number 8, the overhead arm spin. Going worst first, we have overhead arm spin. This move works stability through the shoulders and your core through controlled rotational movement whilst also keeping your arms locked and straight. There's a bit of chest work with the rotation and some postural work, but overall it is a pretty lackluster move that isn't really worth your time investment to train. Muscle fibers are recruited better in the shoulder from moves like shoulder press, overhead squat and overhead lunge twist, and the core especially is trained for both stability and rotation better in a multitude of other fit skills in the game. It's an easy move and has a low skill ceiling, so it works well for active recovery in mid-adventure mode, but apart from in specific circumstances, your time is better spent training with almost any other move in the game. At number 7, overhead arm twist. So as I said, if you've seen the worst fit skills video, this shouldn't be a surprise, but overhead arm twist is again a move that is useful for active recovery and niche training situations, but you could invest your exercise time better. It uses mild internal and external rotation of the shoulders as well as pronation and supination of the wrists in rapid fashion to pull the move off. Keeping your body reached up high has some postural benefits from the core, pecs and rhomboids for support, but it's again a similar case as before. We can train these muscles better elsewhere. Warrior 2 pose is better for the shoulder and wrist rotations as the control you need to exert over it recruits muscle fibers much more effectively, and overhead lunge twist and back press are better for the postural side of things. The positives are that again it's a very easy move that's good for single targets in adventure mode, so it's got low injury risk and it's got the use for training the brachioradialis, one of the few moves that can do it in dedicated fashion. However, that's still not enough to make it go up a position and be any more viable. At number 6, the shoulder press. I like the shoulder press, it's a fun move with some good benefits, mainly deltoids. It hits the heads of the deltoids pretty effectively, especially front and middle delts. There is some use from the lats and rhomboids for stability and posture with this move, as well as the core, but that's the same as most standing moves. The thing is with this move is it is nothing special. It's competent and it's not a waste of time to train, but it can be trained equally as well with moves like front press and back press in a compound movement, which gives additional benefits as well. Unfortunately, it's a healing move in adventure mode, which reduces its visibility as a viable move. Not that that's too much of a bad thing though, because we all know how I feel about hip lift, and the skill ceiling is fairly low. It's not tricky at all, but challenging for a first go to get the arm to stay upright and parallel for best form. So as I said, competent but nothing special. If you're training shoulders specifically and want some dedicated work for the deltoids, especially the middle deltoid, this is great and worth your time. Otherwise, I would stick to other moves for similar benefits and more. So the next 2 rankings are pretty tough because they could be switched around quite easily, but one edges out the other just slightly. At number 5, tricep kickback. Triceps are trained pretty effectively in the game, especially in adventure mode where there is the overhead pull, and it's a pretty great muscle to train for your arms in general. The tricep kickback is a dedicated move to it, one of the few fit skills I'd call an isolated movement in Ring Fit Adventure. The concentric and eccentric movement is great, and it is one of, if not the best tricep exercise in the game. It does what it does very well. However, the proper form for tricep kickback is really tough to get properly. The necessary body position, standing with a knee bent, torso twisted slightly and weight being supported on that leg whilst holding the other arm up so that the upper arm is parallel to the ground and then hinging at the elbow, It is not explained well in-game in comparison to a lot of other fit skills, and in order to do it properly, you need to make sure that your upper arm is staying still and parallel. This can be very difficult at first. There isn't really an injury risk as such, but if you're not doing it properly, you lose a lot of this move's effectiveness. The rough cueing, singular function, and fairly high skill ceiling for proper form make it lose points in my book. The dynamic training of the triceps is good though, although they can be trained elsewhere as well. Once you get to grips with the form, it is a decent exercise. And at number 4, bow pull. This is a great compound fit skill that trains the lats better than most other exercises in the game, and it is a multi-hitter in adventure mode which gives some good utility in a game session. You'll get some good training on the trapezius and triceps here as well, although the tricep is worked isometrically, i.e. completely still but under constant tension. Again, this suffers with similar problems to the tricep kickback. Getting your body into the correct position can be quite tough to get your head around, and the cueing is pretty poor. In fact, I'd honestly rate the cueing for bow pull as some of the worst in the game, as it relies heavily on the visual, lacking some accessibility there. It is not very descriptive. If you're not in the right position, it does make it lose effectiveness, especially at the traps, and makes you concentrate more on the upper arms for form, which isn't the main point of this training. This means the skill ceiling is quite high to get it correct. Now, if you get it wrong, you're not at risk of significant injury, and when you get it right, it is a really good compound move for training the back and therefore your lats, which is why it retains a higher position here. Definitely useful, just difficult to pull off well, especially for beginners. Now, top 3 time. Number 3, it's front press. I'm a really big fan of the front press for its usefulness in a lot of areas. It recruits the pectoralis major muscle fibers in a significant way, being the best dedicated chest move in the entirety of Ring Fit Adventure. You can also train front deltoids and forearms pretty effectively here, as well as the core for stability. The cueing in game is done really well and gives some really useful tips to make sure you get your form right. It's simple in general, having the ring in front of you and horizontal, and just pressing in while keeping it in that low position, so it's got a really low skill ceiling, and in adventure mode it is a really useful 3-target move which I really dig for utility. Training the chest is, as always, very important, but you've got to be mindful not to overtrain and accentuate common postural issues like forward head and rounded shoulders with it. I think it does what it does really well, which is why it gets such a high ranking. It's sounding pretty positive, so why is it number 3 instead of number 2 or number 1? Well, I think the next 2 moves have more utility across the board for a wider range of people and do what they do excellently as well and are better for you posturally. It's also easier not to get the full effectiveness on front press if you miss the cue for flaring the elbow / feeling like you have a tennis ball in the armpit, so sometimes you're not doing it properly and therefore it isn't as effective as it could be. At number 2, the back press. Surprise! Back press is number 2, not number 1 like it was in my original video. Now let's look at the benefits of this move before I explain why it has dropped from number 1. It's easy to do in theory, with the ring behind the head permitting flexibility and range of motion of course. The cueing in the move is excellent and really accentuates the fact that this move is great for helping those with rounded shoulders, a postural issue I mentioned earlier that is caused by weakened and stretched rhomboids and trapezius muscles and over-tightened pectoral muscles. It's very common, so a move that helps counter it is of great use in general. It uses the muscles at the back like traps, rhomboids and serratus anterior while also hitting triceps and spinal erectors, so as you can tell, a lot of benefits to this move. So why have I dropped it a place? It's quite simple, and it's injury risk. Now, this game isn't very particular about the arm position for this move, and it's fairly hard to tell from the in-game model where your arms are meant to be and what angle your elbows are meant to be at. If you have them back and in line with the shoulders, then pressing in actually creates risk of shoulder impingement, i.e. the head of the humerus or the upper arm bone rubbing or pinching against the rotator cuff beneath it, causing significant pain that can take a long time to recorrect. The risk is low, and only if you have your arms in that position. Making sure the elbows are out at 45-degree angles all but eliminates this risk, but since the game isn't clear about arm position and it could lead to this injury, I've dropped back press a spot in favour of another move that works similar muscles with much less risk and more clarity in cueing. So you've probably guessed it, either by process of elimination or other means, the number 1 arm fit skill in Ring Fit Adventure for me is overhead press. This move has great postural and isometric core benefits similar to back press, the pressing works the upper arm similarly, and it still hits those all-important rhomboids and traps to assist against the scourge that is rounded shoulders. The implementation of this skill in game is also excellent in general. It's a great attacking move in adventure mode that unlocks fairly early, it's decently powerful and gives good utility in game. The queuing is really clear and well presented with a low skill ceiling, meaning beginners shouldn't have any problem with correctly performing the exercise. It also works the rear deltoids slightly better than back press in my opinion, and although back press does hit the traps harder, overhead press still does a great job with them. The main reason for it taking the top spot over back press is the natural arm position being easier to get into, as well as eliminating that shoulder impingement risk, as the game is much clearer on the 45-degree flared elbow angle for the arms. The clarity of the exercise cues in game, as well as the lower risk, edges this move out, and combined with all the other great points, makes me call it as the best arm skill in Ring Fit Adventure as far as my professional opinion is concerned. And there we have it, the arm fit skills in Ring Fit. That was quite difficult to rank really, especially bow pull and tricep kickback, two moves that are pretty equally tough, useful and badly implemented, so it was a really difficult one to actually judge properly. I still think I made the right call, but some alteration to the queuing on either side would have changed it quite easily. As I said at the start, I don't think any of these are bad moves, I just think that some are more useful than others, and if you're going to exercise, do the moves with the most effectiveness and the best implementation. That's all. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this and I hope you look forward to the next one, which is most likely going to be legs. Let me know in the comments if you agree with my decisions or not, or if there's something I've pointed out that you didn't know, or if there's something critical that I've missed. I don't think I have, but yeah, please let me know. As always, like, share, subscribe for more Ring Fit content incoming. I've been Master Trainer Peter, and I'll see you soon.